So, in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about an idea I have that isn't so much an idea as much as an observation, really, but it's something that's really impacted my writing and how I read other poets. And that's this idea that poems, particularly ones that kind of focus on the here and now or a specific detail or a part of someone's life, act as kind of living photographs, obviously in the literary form still, but like photographs, they capture a moment in time, but with the tools that are offered by the poetic medium, they kind of communicate different contexts and connotations that come with that past or present moment in someone's life. So in On Photography by Susan Sontag, she states that in teaching us a new visual code, photographs alter and enlarge our notions of what is worth looking at. And I really like this quote because it makes photography seem less like an activity or a hobby, which of course it is, but more like a kind of concept or a new way of artistic thinking. So with this in mind, it's my belief that poetry can act like a snapshot, kind of brought to life by language and interpretation, providing an extended insight into that moment of time that photographs generally cannot capture by themselves, as they tend to kind of offer just an objective depiction of an image. One poet who is known to create poems quite similar to photographic vignettes is Elizabeth Bishop. She takes a minor detail of a specific part of her life and uses the poetic mode to draw on her experiences and emotions that come with that moment. For example, in her poem Insomnia from a Cold Spring, she recounts a sleepless night in abstract details, talking about a world inverted where left is always right, where the shadows are really the body, and weird stuff like that. She begins the poem by talking about her current view, which is of the moon at that time, and this is something that could easily be captured and represented by a photograph, but without her bizarre concepts being presented to us linguistically, it would be pretty impossible to understand the exact context in that moment and her mindset at the time. Likewise, in the Waiting Room from Geography 3, she reflects on a memory of a single period of her life, but uses the poetic medium to kind of communicate the feelings evoked in her by this experience. Specifically, it's her in the dentist's waiting room, I believe, reading the National Geographic and seeing nude women in this magazine, and that's kind of her seemingly being confronted with ideas of sexuality and otherness for the first time. But without poetry in these instances, an onlooker on the situation would be unable to kind of decipher the deeper meanings that these seemingly benign or mundane moments in a person's life represent, just at first. Another poet who specialises in these sorts of poetics is Frank OHara, who adopts a self-proclaimed I do this, I do that style of poetry, is how he described it. He tends to reflect on the current moment and offers a larger connotation associated with that moment. This is particularly prominent in the collection Lunch Poems, which was written during his lunch breaks at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, which is an attempt to capture such a hiding city and environment in such a short period of time. For instance, in The Day Lady Died, OHara writes a stream of consciousness type poem telling kind of the tedious parts of his day, like random things such as getting a shoe shine, getting dinner, the fact that it's 12:20 on a Friday, 3 days after Bastille Day, and stuff like that. But this builds to the point in the poem in which he sees the New York Post and sees that Billie Holiday has died, which immortalizes this seemingly mundane day in memory by the trauma associated with this event. He even ends the poem with the line, "and everyone and I stopped breathing," to show the impact of this death. So, to me, this poem kind of reads like one of those photographs you'd see taken before disaster strikes. If that makes any sense. For example, like an image of the Titanic before it sank. But the only difference is that the poem actually allows the reader some perspective into the disaster in question without needing kind of prior context or knowledge. So this video isn't me bashing the medium of photography or anything like that. I like photography. It's just me saying, trying to highlight the importance of poetry in a world that has seen its decline in favour of more modern forms of art. And Yeah, I'm basically just saying that poetry adds a level of vivacity and intimacy to these kind of still moments of life and allows us as writers the space to develop and share our experiences and our feelings with those who care to listen. And yeah, once again, not so much an idea as much as an opinion or observation, but it's a fun way of writing poetry, and I think it's a kind of way to, I don't know, get you into poetry if you're not already a fan. Kind of is very accessible, I think, and has potential to, discuss wider things, starting from these small details.